Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're unpacking some fascinating and honestly pretty surprising research from the Harvard Business Review and Boston Consulting Group. We're looking at the rapidly changing landscape of AI integration in the workplace. Right now there's this massive push to bring AI into our daily workflows, right? But how we frame that AI, specifically, whether we treat it as just a software tool or as a literal human employee, well, that changes absolutely everything. It turns out giving your AI a cute name and a job title might actually be doing your company a whole lot more harm than good.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture a corporate HR department. In one specific organization studied by the researchers, the head of people introduced Scout. Now, Scout is formally listed on the company's HR org chart, but Scout isn't a human. Scout is an AI agent. And we're not talking about some basic chatbot you just ask simple questions to. Scout acts autonomously. It reviews job applications, conducts first-round interviews, and puts together candidate evaluation summaries. The HR leader literally describes Scout by saying, it's technically an equivalent peer on your team. That's how it acts and behaves. And this right here, this is the exact framing we're going to explore today. Treating AI as an autonomous peer is becoming incredibly common, but as we'll see, it creates some massive blind spots.
So here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. First, we'll meet your new AI colleague. Second, we'll look at the problem with humanizing AI. Third, we'll uncover the hidden costs of AI. And finally, number 4, redesigning human-AI collaboration.
All right, Section 1. Meet your new AI colleague, the rise of the digital teammate. Formalizing AI roles isn't just a sci-fi movie concept anymore. It's an active, widespread corporate trend happening right now.
Just look at the data on this. The researchers surveyed over 1,200 managers, directors, and executives across the US, Canada, and the EU. And get this, a massive 31% of them reported that their company's leadership already frames AI as a teammate or an employee. Almost a quarter of them actually have AI agents officially listed on their organizational charts. That's huge. And it's not just happening in Silicon Valley tech startups. This spans healthcare, financial services, retail, professional services, the whole shebang. Organizations are really trying to make AI feel less foreign, so they give it a name, a title, and just call it a coworker.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world consequence of that social framing. During the interviews, one manager mentioned that their company has an AI employee officially named Kevin. His colleagues actually joke around, saying things like, "We're working with Kevin. He's a little dry." You know, it sounds amusing, right? It sounds like a fun, quirky corporate culture. But here's the massive red flag. When an error happens, the team's language shifts completely. They start saying, "Hey, Kevin's making a mistake. Why is he making that mistake?" See what happened there? By naming the AI Kevin, the human workers are subconsciously treating the AI as a social actor who is responsible for its own actions. They're literally shifting the blame to a piece of software.
Which brings us to Section 2, the problem with humanizing AI, myth versus reality. To really put these corporate assumptions about AI adoption to the test, researchers at BCG and Boston University designed a really clever, large-scale randomized experiment.
Let's move along and see how this builds. Here's exactly how the experiment worked. The researchers handed managers workplace documents that deliberately contained errors, things like factual inaccuracies, bad math, that sort of thing. Then they split the managers into 2 groups. Group 1 was told the document was drafted by an AI tool. Group 2 was told it was drafted by an AI employee named Alex 3. Everything else about the task was totally identical. The only difference was the framing, tool versus employee.
Well, the results were honestly alarming. When the AI was framed as an employee rather than a tool, personal accountability among the human reviewers plummeted by 9 percentage points, and conversely, the accountability they attributed to the AI rose by 8 points. Think about what that actually means in a real business. Humans are effectively throwing up their hands and saying, "Hey, it's not my fault, it's Alex 3's fault." But an AI system can't be fired, right? It can't be held legally or financially accountable. So this humanizing framing dangerously redirects responsibility away from the human supervisors who are the ones actually deploying and approving the output.
Moving into Section 3, the hidden costs of AI, escalation and quality drops. Because treating AI like a coworker doesn't just blur lines of accountability, it causes absolutely disastrous downstream effects on the actual quality of your work. During the experiment, participants had the option to escalate documents to a manager for an additional review. And there was a massive 44% spike in escalation requests when dealing with the AI employee compared to the AI tool. Why? Because the reviewers started second-guessing their own judgment. They felt like they were checking the work of a colleague and weren't confident they caught everything, so they just passed the buck. So instead of speeding up the workflow, which is the whole point of AI, framing it as an employee needlessly bogged everything down with extra review cycles. And here is perhaps the most alarming statistic of this entire explainer: an 18% drop in caught errors. The managers who are reviewing the AI employees' work missed completely obvious, glaring logic flaws. For instance, one document was a job description for an entry-level role that mysteriously required more than 10 years of experience. Managers checking the AI tool caught it immediately. But the managers checking the AI employee, they were way more likely to just glaze right over it and let it pass.
So, the crucial point here is a concept the researchers call AI brain fry. Basically, they define this as the mental fatigue that comes from overseeing AI beyond your own cognitive capacity. When you view AI as a software tool, you naturally take on the cognitive burden of checking its output. You know it's just a machine, so you verify it. But when you frame that exact same output as coming from an employee, it effectively tricks your brain into absolving you of that cognitive burden. You subconsciously trust it like you would a human peer. You apply way less scrutiny, which is exactly why those obvious errors just slip right through the cracks.
And on top of all those workflow errors, anthropomorphizing AI actively damages your workplace culture. The research showed that in companies framing AI as a teammate, managers felt 13% more uncertainty about their own roles. They had 7% higher concern about their job security, and an overall 10% lower trust in how AI would even be used. As one participant bluntly put it, and I love this quote, "If you want people to feel like they will lose their job to AI, then put it on the org chart." And the ultimate irony in all of this? The researchers found that humanizing AI did absolutely nothing to increase the actual adoption of the technology. It literally just created a bunch of anxiety.
All right, let's pivot to some solutions in Section 4. Redesigning human-AI collaboration, the blueprint for success. The BCG researchers didn't just point out all the flaws here, they provided a really clear, actionable blueprint for integrating agentic AI the right way. Now, what's really interesting about this framework is how it fundamentally shifts the mindset from replacement to augmentation. There are 5 critical ways leaders need to redesign work. First, explicitly redefine workflows and human role expectations. Reward the quality of the oversight, not just the speed. Second, make accountability totally personal and explicit. Third, build employee capabilities so they actually know how to manage these systems. Fourth, do not constrain AI into one-for-one human roles. AI doesn't have finite human capacity, so don't box it into a single job description. And fifth, deliberately evolve human work to focus on things like judgment, creativity, and relationship building.
Let's zoom in a bit closer on step 2 from that framework, making accountability explicit. Because especially if you work in a highly regulated environment, you absolutely need to establish clear rules of collaboration. First up, decision rights. You have to define exactly what the AI agent is allowed to do completely autonomously versus what requires a human sign-off. Second, escalation. What actually triggers a human review, and who is the person stepping in? And third, consequences. When the agent inevitably fails, what happens next? Who is the accountable human carrying that responsibility forward? Having this structure in place entirely eliminates that "Kevin made a mistake" excuse.
Ultimately, if your goal is to get your team to actually use AI, cute names and fake job titles just aren't the answer. The data is super clear on this. Real adoption comes from visible managerial signaling. Companies that are leading the pack in AI maturity are 3.5 times more likely to have managers who actively role model AI use in their own daily operations. When an employee actually sees their boss using an AI tool successfully and being celebrated for it, that is what actually drives them to adopt the tech.
So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on today. Think about your own workflows right now and the systems you're building. If your AI employee makes a critical, highly costly mistake tomorrow, who actually takes the blame? If the answer is blurry, or if you know your team is going to be tempted to blame the software, it's time to stop treating your AI like a coworker and start seriously redesigning your governance. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you next time.